Good afternoon, Gills fans, and welcome back to, well, what can I describe as a breaking edition, I suppose, of Gills in the Blood TV. This wasn't planned. Only one subject we're going to talk about. Adrian Pennock has, in the last hour, been appointed as manager for season 2017-2018. And Peter Taylor, another old friend of Mr. Scally, returns as director of football. Don't know where to start really. In terms of initial reaction, it's underwhelming. It's frustrating. It smacks of jobs for the boys again, unfortunately, and it seems that despite all of these sort of extracurricular activities, shall we call them, that Adrian Pennock's had to deal with towards the back end of last season after coming on board, he sort of still wants to deflect everything away from the fact that he only won 4 games after arriving in January. I'll stick to my guns and repeat myself and say that Justin Edinburgh's sacking was correct back then, but at the time I thought we'd go in for someone who would take us to the next level, whatever that would be, relatively speaking. I certainly didn't think that we'd appoint Adrian Pennock. At the time, I said it was jobs for the boys, and I'll stick to that sentiment. Yes, Adrian's had a lot to deal with. It seems he obviously come out and was very emotional after the final day escape at Northampton, and spoke of poison within the dressing room and people causing trouble and not wanting to play for the shirt, etc. And he's mentioned before people that lack nether regions. He's then come out in the press again as late as today, this morning, and said that he had to contend with a physio disappearing to London without telling anyone, the fact that training had to be cancelled because they'd have been liable in terms of insurance if anyone had got injured. Nearly had to have a game postponed because of the same reason, because a physio called in sick late or something. Last week he was speaking about driving around London, convincing the now infamous Bonds and Gala to rip up his contract so that he could save the club thousands of pounds. This is all well and good, and it's great that if he wants to take this upon himself to go and do this for the football club, then that's excellent. But at the end of the day, Adrian, bottom line is football's a results business, and you didn't win enough football matches in your time in charge. We were 8 points clear of the relegation zone when he took over, and we ended up basically staying up because Port Vale failed to score at Fleetwood on the final day. Peter Taylor, as I say, has returned as director of football, and I guess you can sort of understand the position we're in at the moment, when me personally, I'm actually more excited about that appointment than I am Adi Pennock continuing as head coach. It didn't work out the second time around for Peter Taylor. Obviously, I'm of a slightly an older age group, who remembers Peter Taylor's reign when he took over from Tony Pulis at the turn of the millennium, and he played a great brand of football that got us promoted at Wembley versus Wigan. But in terms of his second spell in charge, he did a job when he replaced Martin Allen, but it didn't work out after that. And in a similar situation to sort of how Justin was at the end, and now Adrian, he fell out with fans and lost their backing and sort of forced Paul Scally's hand. That did it in a way. But in terms of players that he got in when he was here the second time, John Egan obviously has done massively well since leaving. He's now at Brentford in the Championship and has recently played for Ireland. Max Amar, Luke Norris, Courtney House, who's done very well in the Championship. Brennan Dickinson, Colchester's Player of the Year last season. So in terms of that, I'm not going to say I'm excited. I'm not over the moon that Peter Taylor's back. But in terms of him being a director of football, I think there could have been worse appointments. But in terms of Adrian Pennock, the football manager, he's got plenty to learn, plenty to prove. As I said, it's a results business, and he's not won enough of them. But he's got his chance now. He's got to go and wheedle out all this so-called poison within the football club that he's spoken about, and hopefully now we know that he is in charge. Hopefully the retain list will be published imminently, and we know where we stand in terms of who's being released, and then we can start the process of trying to get some good footballers in, not just in terms of ability and technique, but also players of the correct sort of attitude and mental fortitude that Adrian's obviously banged on about for so long that we've not had enough of. But at the moment, I think he's in a no-win situation. He's sort of set himself up a little bit. He's gone on about how it's everybody else's fault that the club's not been successful since he's arrived. And I have no doubt that Adrian Pennock cares about this football club a lot and wants to do well for it. But there's a difference between wanting to do well and caring for it and actually doing well and being qualified to do the job. If we're sitting here this time next season and we've had a decent campaign, however relative that may be, then I'll hold my hands up and say fair play. Apologies to Adrian, you've done a good job. But as I said, underwhelmed, frustrated, almost angry at the moment. It's a nothing appointment. It's a safe. It's not a safe option. It's a lazy option in my eyes. But we as fans, we support Gillingham Football Club through thick and thin, as we've been told plenty of times. And we've got to move on. We've got to move forward. We've got to support the club and support those players that stay, those players that come in, and go from there. Doesn't mean that we agree with it, and certainly doesn't mean that we're happy with it. But that's where we are. That's my thoughts on it. Please drop a comment in the box below, or comment on Twitter. Please retweet and like and subscribe. Get others to subscribe, other Gills fans or other football fans. All your support's massively appreciated. And until next time, up the Gills.